what you've failed to forget, wrestling first started on BBC One, and it was bigger than Coronation Street, your Emmerdales and EastEnders and all that. And it was always an institution. On a Saturday, you got your coupon ready, but as your coupon was ready to be checked, you always watched the wrestling. And the good thing about the wrestling on a Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock, have a good week till next week, it was all about looking after the elderly, the handicapped, the people that thought it was or into it, and it was a captive audience. And even on cup final day, when they put the wrestling on before the cup final, which was the greatest sporting event in this country, we always topped them for viewing figures. Now, it's hard to believe. And what also has happened, Steve, they're trying to get wrestling back on television. The public vote that they had only months ago, a lot of the elderly people, like I said, and the handicapped people who can't get out, and wrestling, as you like, the wages that we was getting was absolutely crap, because it was only, like, I look at some of the posters, it was only a shilling or £3 to get ringside seats. It was a cheap. But the good thing is, you had the ladies with the handbags, you had the ladies with the umbrellas, you had fellas letting steam off. There were never any police there. There were never any of this. They used to get the fellas going to a pub for a pint and say, "Where's your Nelly?" "Oh, she's at the wrestling." "I can have about 10 pints tonight. She won't be back till 11 o'clock.
Yeah. It was a way of letting off steam.
But
the guys
wrestling on television, everybody, remembers it at 4 o'clock with Kent Walton.
Absolutely, yeah. I started in 91, Marty, and I was lucky enough to still wrestle in front of a few crowds who still believed that everything was legit that they were seeing in front of them. Cleethorpes Memorial Hall, where you wrestled many, many times. Norwich. But most of your career, you'd have been wrestling in front of crowds like that. Tell us of some outside-of-the-ring scrapes that you've come into.
Well, Norwich, where you mentioned there, as you know, it was wrestled in the cattle market.
They did, yeah. Lovely place.
And I got what we call a bit of heat with Ricky Knight, who was from Norwich. And one time, Norwich is well known for the, let's say, the travellers, the gypsies. They used to always go there. And they was always supporting their lads, but they weren't supporting, they just wanted to fight, you know what I mean? And when you came out of the dressing room, you got one guy who'd start arguing and pushing and blah, 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 and this, that. And then you got used to these guys, and one time this guy actually said to me, I can't repeat what he said on radio, but...
You can, Marty, it's all right.
He just turned around, and because I have a lazy eye and I'm blind in one eye, not a lot of people know that, he just said, I'd had a bit of trouble with him before, and he just happened to turn around and say, "Right, this is it, you fat bastard, you one-eyed bastard." I said, "One eye?" And this is before I got in the ring. So I just stuck my finger right in his eye, and he went down like a sack of spuds. And the next thing is, I accidentally, on purpose, walked to the ring via his head. And then we got in the ring, I won the match, and then there was 3 or 4 of them who wanted to have a go, and it was like the OK Corral. But the good thing is we came out on top. So every time the promoter turned around and said, "Oh, I can't put that on again," I said, "Well, you put it on next week and put my title on the line against Ricky Knight." And they turned over 3,000 people away because of all the publicity. Yeah. Needless to say, the Jippo didn't turn up, you know. But no, you've got that. That's where the amateur background comes into it as well.
Absolutely. I did always hear that you was a man that could handle himself outside the ring, Marty. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Don't be modest. Don't be modest.
Well, I always defended the job. It's like anything else. We ain't bullies, thieves, and liars, and that's it. And I think there's a lot of boxers and a lot of people like that. They're not liberty takers. I mean, there's some liberty takers in the wrestling business, and then, you know, a new lad that came in, they used to, that word again, scurf them all over the place. For what? You know, and then the next thing, when they was on with somebody that they could probably scurf them about, they just didn't want to know. It's just a fact of life, that, you know.
I think there was it's something I'm going to discuss with Danny Collins, actually. I think there's a difference between giving somebody a lesson that they're going to learn to teach and being a bully.
Yeah.
I think there's a very big difference.
I mean, I can tell you still, I've talked to you, when you speak to Danny, I respect Danny in a lot of ways. He's a true professional. But I remember the time once at Croydon, I don't know if you remember this, he just started doing...
I'm about to ask you this question. I believe this is a question that's coming from a fan, actually, Marty. Stephen Barker is going to ask about your injury with Danny Collins at Croydon. Is this what we're going to talk about?
Yeah.
Go for it, Marty. Tell us the story.
Well, for you and Steve, and the Americans started doing what they call a cage match, where they'd wrestle inside a cage. So one promoter had the wisdom, why can't we do that? Well, they've got the money to have one of these cages erected and come down from the ceiling. We had one. I said, look, I'll have a go at it. I said, what do we do? It's like so you just wrestle inside a cage, and it's the first man over the top of the cage, and you can use your cage to... Anyway, it was a good house. And unfortunately, it was at Bristol, and who would I be on with? Was Danny Collins. Well, it was packed out anyway, and we had a good match. And the next night, believe it or not, the promoter has said he'd already done the billing, but as an added bonus, I'm on with Danny Collins again. Not the next night, it was a couple of weeks after, but he wanted to do it again. And I was on in the cage match, and I walked in at Croydon. Danny Boy Collins was already in the ring. And at this time, I was turning to be a heel, a bit of a baddie. And what I mean by that, I used to come into the ring by simply the best. And then I used to grab the mic and say I'm the best from the Northwest. Because the crowds were starting to go down a little bit. So I had the knowledge to get the crowd that liked me to turn against me. But still wrestle my style, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I was on with Danny Collins where I was getting a bit of heat. Anyway, I got in the heat was electric. Anyway, the silly thing is you trust other people to set rings up, and anyway, this cage was up, which I thought was the same as the last time I wrestled in a cage. No sooner I got into the ring, onto the apron, I've got some good heat, and the crowd are really, really, on the edge of the seat to see this fight break out between me and Collins. And then for some unknown reason, the bell went and Danny Boy Collins just drop-kicked me. But I hadn't even got in the ring, I was on the apron. But as he drop-kicked me, I jumped off, or he knocked me off the apron, and I impaled myself on the spikes that was on top of this cage. Now, if you know a motorway, or when they're doing drains, you get this mesh stuff on either side, like a barrier. Well, that's what they used. Now, the night before, it was nice and smooth. This one that they got from round the corner had all spikes on the top. And needless to say, I ended up impaling myself, and my feet was just touching the floor. And I had to pull my own arm off. And at the time, it was just sore. But as soon as I hit the floor, I looked at my arm, and it was just like a pound of mincemeat, the flesh underneath my arm. And like a true professional, I got back into the ring, and I just said to the referee, you better, and I fainted, but Danny Boy Collins did a step over arm lock and took the submission on me. But everybody in the audience, well, I can honestly say, I ended up with over 106 stitches in my arm. Underneath. There were so many inside, and every time, it was, let's say, an occupational hazard, but there were people that were physically sick at the ringside.
I can imagine.
And they whisked me off to Mayday Hospital in Croydon, and they actually saved my arm. And they reckon another 2 millimetres one way, I'd have gone through an artery underneath my arm. So every time I shave under my arms, I think of that little swine, Danny Boy Collins,
Oh my Lord, 106 stitches.
Yeah, inserted inside and out.
My God, and this wasn't the end of your career? You carried on after this?
Yeah, carried on, had a few more injuries. I mean, the injuries I have now is like, you can appreciate wrestling was good to me. For 30 odd years I was wrestling 7 nights a week, and the old bones are taking its toll now. And this is why I'm saying this young lady I've got here now is just knowledgeable on the stuff to eat. Where wrestlers, and yeah, we train hard or we do this, but we always have a few beers and Guinness and things. Well, the time is now that we've been in the pub business as well, that the ale stopped and eating the right food. And I'm feeling, I don't feel 60. I know we're doing these seminars. I could probably do another match now with the right person,
Yeah. When did you decide to retire, Marty?
I decided...
Did work just dry up, or was it your decision to decide to retire?
Well, when they took the wrestling off television, our wrestling in the UK, Great Britain, everywhere, it just went. There was no advertising. There was nothing there. It was just a complete and utter waste of time going to these places.
Now, a couple more questions, Marty. This has come in from Paul Dougie Douglas, and this is a difficult one for you to answer. In your opinion, for England's number one, Marty Jones, who was better, Rocco or Finley, and why?
Well, I reckon as a wrestler, Finley was better, but as a showman, Rocco was 110 mile an hour. Finlay, 80 mile an hour, but two very, very hard to split them, I tell you. Very hard. As far as for me, I had, at the time, me and Rocco were the thing. And talking about injuries, when we used to knock crap out of each other. Honestly, we did. I remember one time we had a glove match, and Rocco, it was one where you got a glove, and they were all gimmicks that was happening at the time. And I remember splitting Rocco, and while he was there, he was in the hospital having stitches taken out of his leg, and I had him in my arm. And people think it's all staged and rehearsed. I'm telling you, no way do I want over 200-300 stitches in my body in my career. It's unbelievable. But Rocco, he was, me and him was right at that time, just like McManus and Pallow.
Yes.
I mean, as far as hard men, they're both hard lads, but very energetic, very, very fit, and a credit to the business,
Right, we're going to finish off, Marty, with some word association. I'm going to put a name forward, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes into your mind, a description of this person, okay?
Right.
Right. First thing that comes into your mind, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent.
Do you want me to say good, bad, or...
If you think this person is an absolute twat, you tell me
right,
that, okay? Okay. Kendo Nagasaki.
Prick.
Can you elaborate?
Yes. A knob.
No,
he's gimmick, fantastic. As a person, and what he demanded and what he was, and a crying shame. He's an eccentric. Is that the word? It's better. Yeah.
Big Daddy.
Fantastic for the business, for putting back arses on the seats, but not my style whatsoever. So
Hulk Hogan.
At the time, good for the business.
Johnny Saint.
Terrific.
Davy Boy Smith.
Fabulous, but what a waste of talent.
Danny Collins.
Superb.
Drew McDonald.
Average.
Marc Rocco.
Marc Rocco. There must be a word for it. Terrific.
Max Crabtree.
A genius in his own way.
And finally, Brian Dixon.
Brian, yeah, same again. Good promoter. Good.
Marty, that's it. I will let you get back to your eating.
Yeah.
And it's been an absolute privilege talking to you, my friend.
Yeah, anytime. I've just got to go and take this little cat out for a walk now, and it keeps purring at me and things like that,
If people want to get a hold of you, Marty, for seminars, because obviously this is something that people need to learn before this absolutely dies off, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, if they just private message me or ask me to be a friend on Facebook, or, I don't like giving my home number out, to be honest with you.
Of course, yeah.
But
if they contact me as well, I'll pass the information.
That'll be fabulous, yeah.
Are you willing to travel for these, obviously?
Yes, I am. I hope to be going to Portugal soon, and I also, Steve, it's not just necessarily wrestling.